Welcome back again, everyone. It's Dina Calmetta here with CWW7 News. And for today's broadcast, to wrap up the week, I wanted to bring you some headlines that have occurred earlier this week. We're going to talk about the United States, Russia, China, as well as Iran and North Korea. But I first would like to start with China. It is being reported by The Sun. China's mighty military has been told to prepare for a war in 2019. The Chinese leader made it clear it was his goal to make the country a combat rival to the United States when he announced massive military spending at the end of 2018. Now his country's 2.7 million soldiers have been told to make sure they are fighting fit and fully prepared for a military struggle. The worrying war talk comes in a carefully scripted editorial in China's official state newspaper for its forces. Drilling soldiers and war preparations are the fundamental jobs and work focus of our military, and at no time should we allow any slack in these areas, stated the paper. We should be well prepared for all directions of military struggle and comprehensively improve troops' combat response in emergencies to ensure we can meet the challenge and win when there is a situation. President Xi Jinping, who heads the military, has been pushing the People's Liberation Army to boost its combat readiness since he took the job in late 2012. Observers said the stepping up of drills could be about flexing the PLA's military muscle, but spelling it out at the start of the year also suggested it was a more important part of the plan for 2019. Jinping said he wants to make China great again when he announced a military budget of $126 billion for 2019, an 8% increase. The call to arms comes just days after a Chinese naval chief warned his country's military might need to sink 2 U.S. aircraft carriers to solve disputes over the South China Sea, risking 10,000 lives. Deputy head of the Chinese Academy of Military Sciences made his chilling threat while speaking at a top-level military summit. He said what the United States fears the most is taking casualties. He said the loss of one supercarrier would cost the U.S. the lives of 5,000 servicemen and women. Sinking two would double that toll. We'll see how frightened America is, he stated. He bragged about China's new anti-ship ballistic and cruise missiles are more than capable of taking out U.S. carriers, despite them being at the center of a bubble of defensive escorts. His threats came just 10 days after experts warned a war between the U.S. and Chinese forces in the South China Sea could break out in 2019. And concerns are mounting that the two superpowers could become embroiled in a terrifying conflict in the directly contested region, which could cost thousands of lives. Malcolm Davis, a senior analyst in defense strategy, stated that we should expect greater tension in the South China Sea because China won't back down, nor will the United States. The South China Sea will remain a key flashpoint between China and the U.S., who are now engaged in an extended period of strategic competition. It goes on further to report. In his speech, Admiral Lu said that there were 5 cornerstones of the United States open to exploitation: their military, their money, their talent, their voting system, and their fear of adversaries. He said China should use its strength to attack the enemy's shortcomings. Attack wherever the enemy is afraid of being hit, wherever the enemy is weak. However, this is not the first controversial commentator's aggressive outburst. In December, he said if the U.S. naval fleet dares to stop in Taiwan, it is time for the People's Liberation Army to deploy troops to promote national unity or invade the island. Those who are trying to stir up trouble in the South China Sea and Taiwan should be careful about their future. Meanwhile, the acting U.S. Defense Secretary, Patrick Shanahan, told civilian leaders of the U.S. military to focus on China, 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 even as America fights militants in Syria and Afghanistan. The comments came during Shanahan's first meeting with secretaries of the U.S. military branches since taking over for Jim Mattis. The U.S. official, who spoke on condition of anonymity, did not elaborate on Shanahan's views on China or what other guidance he gave during the meeting. Other officials have described the U.S. Defense Secretary as an advocate of the Pentagon's toughening stance towards Beijing. The 2018 National Defense Strategy branded China as a strategic competitor. The Pentagon has said he played a critical role in developing the strategy, which singled out China and Russia as top threats, saying that they wanted to shape a world consistent with the authoritarian model. The document stated that long-term strategic competitions with China and Russia are the principal priorities for the department and require both increased and sustained investment. The defense official stated that Shanagan told Pentagon leadership to follow the document's guidance, particularly regarding China. While we're focused on ongoing operations, we need to remember China, China, China. And speaking of China, the Globe and Mail has reported that the Chinese leader has issued a new threat to use military force in Taiwan as Beijing intensifies efforts to achieve unification with self-governing democratic region, holding up Hong Kong as a model for Taipei. In a major address, the Chinese leader promised economic gifts to Taiwan if it places itself under Beijing's rule, saying with the great motherland's support, Taiwan compatriots' welfare will be even better. Their development space will be even greater. What China calls unification should happen peacefully, and Beijing would protect Taiwan's freedoms, specifically pointing to the Hong Kong model of one country, two systems as a solution. It was a notion that the Taiwan's president immediately rejected, but the Chinese leader reiterated Beijing's willingness to use military power in a region it sees as a renegade province. China will not promise to renounce the use of force and reserve the option to use all necessary measures. The situation between China and Taiwan is absolutely intensifying to dangerous levels, and I believe that China will eventually follow through with their threat and invade Taiwan by force. And I can also see other nations getting involved in that conflict, most pointedly the United States. Now, hopefully none of this will happen, but I don't see China backing down, and I don't see Taiwan backing down, nor do I see the United States backing down. So this could eventually intensify into a very dangerous situation. Now, hopefully it won't go in that direction. But as it is right now, things are definitely very tense, and I will continue to keep you updated. But I would like to move on and talk about North Korea next. North Korea, just on Tuesday, during his New Year's address, stated that he is prepared to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump at any time, but warned that he would pursue an alternative course if Washington kept up on sanctions on North Korea. In his closely watched New Year's address, Kim said he was ready to pursue an outcome that would be welcomed by the international community. However, he said that the North would be forced to take a different path if the United States continues to break its promises and misjudges our patience by unilaterally demanding certain things and pushes ahead with sanctions and pressure. Kim also said that the United States should continue to halt its joint military exercises with South Korea and not to deploy strategic military assets to the south. He also made a nationalistic call urging for stronger inter-Korean cooperation and said that the North is ready to resume operations at a jointly run factory park in the North Korean border. However, neither of those is possible for South Korea unless sanctions are removed. Nuclear talks between Washington and North Korea have stalled for months, as they struggle with the sequencing of North Korea's disarmament and the removal of U.S.-led sanctions against the North. Some analysts say North Korea has been trying to drive a wedge between Washington and South Korea, while putting the larger burden of action on the United States. North Korea, over the past months, has accused Washington of failing to take corresponding measures following the North's unilateral dismantle of a nuclear testing ground and suspension of nuclear and long-range missile tests. North Korea has also bristled at U.S. demands to provide a detailed account of nuclear and missile facilities that would be inspected and dismantled under a potential deal. Finally, it reports that the two sides have yet to reschedule a meeting between Secretary of State Mike Pompeo after North Korea canceled it at the last minute in November. I think we eventually will see a meeting between Kim and Trump this year. President Trump has already stated that he'd like to see the North Korean leader here in the United States. So that should be a very interesting meeting. And I will definitely continue to keep you updated. But I would like to move on and talk about Iran next. It is being reported across several different sources that Mike Pompeo has warned Iran against any space launches or ballistic missiles. The United States issued a preemptive warning to Iran on Thursday against pursuing 3 planned space rocket launches that it said would violate a UN Security Council resolution because they use ballistic missile technology. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo stated that Iran had announced plans to launch in the coming months 3 rockets called launch vehicles, which he said incorporate technology that is virtually identical to that used in intercontinental ballistic missiles. Pompeo said in a statement, "The United States will not stand by and watch the Iranian regime's destructive policies place international stability and security at risk. We advise the regime to reconsider these provocative launches and cease all activities related to ballistic missiles in order to avoid deeper economic and diplomatic isolation." The Iranian deputy defense minister in late November was quoted by Iranian media as saying that Iran was planning to launch 3 satellites into space soon. Pompeo said such rocket launches would violate United Nations Security Council Resolution 2231, which endorsed a 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and world powers. It calls upon Iran not to undertake activities related to ballistic missiles capable of delivering nuclear weapons, including launches using such technology. It stops short explicitly barring such activity. Iran has stated that its space program is peaceful, but Western experts suspect it may be a cover for developing military missile technologies. So I guess the question is now, is Iran going to take heed to the United States warning? I highly doubt it, but I could be wrong. But I'll definitely continue to keep you updated. And with that said, I just wanted to bring you guys a quick report today and get you caught up on all these headlines. Please do leave your comments in the comments section. Tell me what you think. Also, come and visit us on Facebook, where we have these stories and many more, as well as our website at www.cww7news.org. All right, everyone, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. God bless.